Kolento versus SilverName is our third match of the day, and it's what we're getting into right now. What are you going to say?
Before we go anywhere, I want to clarify that I threw horribly at the start of the day. I had the right information written down, and I even tweeted the wrong information despite having the right information written down. Kolento cannot catch Hunter Ace. It's not possible. He loses on tiebreaker 1 before he even gets to tiebreaker 2. So I just want that clarified before we move on any further. I got all the complicated stuff with the three-way tie right, and then I just threw a tiebreaker 1 scenario. Like, come on. What is that?
You can see the picks of the bans down below. That Divine Shield around a class means it was protected. Protect Priest. It's the home stretch now. People have gone, okay, no more messing around. It's time to just protect the best deck. SilverName again has had his Zoo banned away twice this week. It's been taken out of contention. For Kolento, his Murloc Paladin has been banned away. I want you, yeah, go ahead. I'll do your thing.
That was it. I did my thing. You can continue.
No words?
No.
You usually have something very sharp and jabbing to say when people do stuff like this.
Sometimes the face says enough, Admirable.
Is that a weird deal damage to them saying?
Sometimes you just go face.
Says enough. Kicking off with Quest Shaman for Kolento and Priest for SilverName in this one. We just saw Yarla overcome this match, as we have been seeing a number of times in the home stretch of Grandmasters as well.
Yeah, absolutely so. Weirdly, the Priest just seems to be falling away a little bit. In terms of results, I don't think anything's changed with the deck. I think the deck is still by far and away the best deck in the format. But just in terms of results this final week, I think Priest has been losing on stream to some textbook good matchups for it. And it's also over in Americas running into some aggressive Highlander decks and like Highlander Warrior with a Brawl in it, for example, which are kind of custom built to really tackle the Priest. So it's been running into a couple of those matchups as well. So it has seemed a bit of an underwhelming week for the Priest.
Not an underwhelming start for SilverName.
Nope. Mogu Mutate in hand for Kolento. And that wins games. And I still don't think people have a handle on how often it wins games. I still think people are like, oh, he high-rolled that so hard. Like, legitimately, whoa! All right, like, forget everything I just said, apparently. Like, legitimately, 1 out of 5, or like 1 out of 6 context-dependent Mogu Evolve outcomes are like straight-up game-winning against almost every deck. Akali the Rhino, Batterhead, Walking Fountain, Tyrion. Like, I can keep going. There are more of these.
Well, have you met my good friend Emperor Cobra? Kolento's reaction to the inner fire. I don't think I've ever seen him kind of react that way. It was like the not bad.jpg look.
Of course it's the right way.
Well, Emperor Cobra was certainly not bad.jpg.
I thought you were going to tear into him for that mutate.
I mean, I don't like it. I will say that categorically. I don't know, we don't need to go any further than that.
That's tearing in. I'll take it.
Kolento's just an actual lord.
Just like, what the heck?
Straight up lord. This is Kolento's world, and we are just living.
Seriously.
It's that simple.
That is like an unbelievable set of outcomes. You get the Emperor Cobra from the mutate, you found the Kobold Lackey, you ripped the Wasp on 4. Like, nothing could have gone better.
Nope.
I suppose Psychopop here gets 2 minions. You rip a Sludge Slurper into Witchy Lackey. The Witchy Lackey hits Akali the Rhino.
Now we're in business.
Okay.
Yeah. Now you're thinking with portals.
It's delayed by a turn. It's an evil totem instead. Thinking in portals? Is that what you said?
Thinking with portals, yeah.
Portals. What is it? Where is that saying from?
It was a slogan from the game Portal. because you had to solve puzzles in creative ways.
Oh yeah, I never played that.
2 different portal guys. It's amazing. You should play it. Even with the high roll from the evil totem, you can't just not play a 5/5 this turn, right? Can you?
I'd probably play a 5/5. Yeah, you're too strong on board to not play 5/5, I think.
Well, actually, you could have gone Totem, Flesh Shaper, right? And then the Flesh Shaper is just on board, you value traded it, it lives, and then if you do get the Lackey, you can just make your 8-drop next turn. And
Yeah,
that was kind of good too.
I think there's considerations for Battlecry progress, as well as the fact that Mogu is from hand. Like, you don't need to use a from hand thing this turn.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
There's one thing that I can say that I've seen about Kolento a lot, and it's that when he's down to his final, like, immediate option, I will see him deviate quite a bit from, like, the strongest thing I can do now to have an option to make sure I can continue to do strong things.
Okay.
A lot of players do that. It just, for whatever reason, I notice it with him more. I think it's because there's such a mystery around his play that he just continues to win every single time that I pay extra attention.
Quickly.
For SilverName, we are running out of those options.
Kolento gives the nod. Exactly as I foresaw. My 1/1 gets to clear the board. All right, what are you going to do? Not play a 3/4 this turn?
Well, it doesn't have to do anything now. It's just...
Portals are so squishy.
Maybe you want to keep the 1/1.
Is this Wild Pyromancer card?
Yeah, but it's a 1/1.
You never push the 1, Admirable.
Stark contrast.
Gallon was last week, all right.
It just keeps happening.
I must consider.
It's tough for me to remember the last time Priest actually won this matchup in Grandmasters.
Yeah, I was almost just thinking that same thing.
There
and
was
then,
one yesterday, but...
Yeah, and then I was going to convince, like, I was trying to convince myself that, like, there's definitely cognitive bias in that, because when Priest beat Shaman, that's what we expected to happen. So
And it happens.
yeah, exactly.
Super
So we
quickly.
just don't register it. Whereas when the Shaman wins, we go, oh damn, the Shaman wins.
That took a long time.
X player played that really nicely. They beat Priest. I'm gonna remember this and talk about it ad nauseum for the next 7 weeks.
This all-in is shut down. One giggler, please.
Yeah, all right, fine.
I encourage you to look for better.
I mean, I was kind of excited by just rush lackeying things and just killing it, because then it's dead and my opponent has 1 card.
I imagine it's read-based.
Like if these 2 cards are Pyro and Power Word Shield and then a thing happens.
I think that they are more likely to be stuff like Bonsamdi, Silence, Circle of Healing. Can't really think of what else it could possibly be. Topsy?
Yeah, but I don't think you've named a card that we don't beat 100% of the time in Kolento's position there yet. Or is magically busting through these gigglers and smashing you for 10? Seems significantly scarier than anything else. Yeah, that's 33% of your health total.
You're beating down the door right now.
It doesn't matter. We're arguing a very, very, very silly point.
Well, would you
about
like
a
to debate
very
something
one
else?
Game. Yeah, that mutate on turn 3.
Well, there's no debate there. I just agree. It was...
Wait, with me or him?
You.
Okay.
It was super weird.
Okay.
You have best.
But if that's what it takes to win... I don't know, man. That mutate looked weird to me.
Yeah.
Like, shockingly good outcome.
Yeah. Emperor Cobra was absolutely phenomenal in that position, and what, it got a inner fire out of SilverName's hand, right?
And a power word shield.
I was too busy like freaking out to even see what happened on SilverName's response to it, which, you know, worked out really well, even though it didn't contest the Light Warden, which I think is Kolento's thinking there, right? Which is, I don't necessarily have this insane Mogu Flesh Shaper hand where I have lackey generators and faceless lackeys just all the way down and I get the nuts all the time.
Right.
Like right now, this Light Warden is just beating me up and I need to contest it. But the average 3-drop just doesn't contest that Light Warden, and you've just discarded your mutate a lot of the time to just, you know, a buff, and then the Light Warden gets healed and you're just right back in the same spot that you were. Even though Emperor Cobra came out, which is like one of the Giga Nuts outcomes that isn't Mukla or Blade Master in that position, that same thing just still kind of happened. Just buff back into the same position. Regardless, like, Kolento, as I said, is an absolute lord and just managed to rip his way out of it. But I don't know, maybe he's a genius and I'm an idiot. I mean, it's very possible. And in fact, evidence does seem to be presented to support that case on a weekly basis.
But I don't think that invalidates your argument, because I'm also an idiot and I have plenty of good arguments about things.
I await the day I hear one.
Oh, that's it. We're going to a break. This is your fault. We're going to break, and it's Saddle's fault, and when we come back, it's Kolento versus SilverName, game number 2. Kolento out to a 1-0 lead. Stay tuned.
The shadows are rising again, darker than they've ever been. As evil descends from the skies, the world cries out, how will we survive? Out of the hall of explorers, and up from the dusty tombs, they grab their whips and fedoras. These legends of the past know exactly what to do. There might be magic monsters, mummies in the markets, and ancient mysticism. There's surely scorching deserts, adventure monster of narcissism. High stakes think annihilation, obliteration of civilization. Now is the time to be brave. Evil's come to enslave, but this league's gonna save the world.
My name is Alexander Malsh. You might know me as Kolento. My username Kolento is kind of random. I just took it from the MMORPG I was playing. It was the name of one of my characters. My favorite moment in Hearthstone is probably when I won the Game House Cup. It was one of my first tournaments I won, and it probably was the first LAN I won, so it felt very special. So as for Grandmasters in general, I really like to play against people I know personally and I met before. I have respect for them. I think competing will be fun. Being in Grandmasters is a big honor. It's just a proof that I'm a part of best players in Hearthstone. It's not like I need it so much, I just know it myself, but it still feels kind of nice. I'll just perform well at Grandmaster League. I'll try to keep streaming, and I just want to spend the rest of my time having as much fun as I'm having doing my hobby.
Меня зовут Владислав, мой никнейм SilverName, и моя страница на Твиче SilverName. Как придумал имя, бронза — это слишком мало, потому что бронза, как я говорил, 3-4 место — это самое обидное место. Золото слишком пафосно, а серебро — это золотая середина. Быть грандмастером для меня, наверное, показывать хорошую игру или учить людей, что я делал до этого. Записывать какие-то гайды обучающие, только делать это еще в большем количестве. Самое главное — ответственность. Точно ответственно. Хобби, ну, я бы не назвал его хобби, но до того, как я начал стримить и профессионально играть, я профессионально занимался музыкой. На протяжении 5 лет ездил на всякие там конкурсы, выступал. Потом из-за, там, можно сказать, травмы спины закончил делать это. Сейчас, можно сказать, ну, иногда поигрываю для души чисто, чтобы расслабиться. Ну, наверное, самое, чего не хотелось бы, это, скорее всего, ну, вылететь из этой лиги, потому что это самое обидное будет. Для того, чтобы это случилось, это должно, ну, крайне не повезти. И кому-то 16 игроков явно не повезет. И, ну, не хотелось бы оказаться на их месте.
Welcome back to Hearthstone Grandmasters for Europe. It's Superlative Sunday on our final day of the regular season, which means we have a 6th bonus match that's in play. I'm Nathan, that's Admirable Zamora, joined by Simon, Sotto Welch, and right now, Kolento boasts a 1-0 lead over SilverName, thanks to some handy-dandy work with Quest Shaman.
Yep, indeed. And as we were mentioning, we just seen that happen seemingly too much. We'll have to check the numbers at the end of the weeks when we start inputting everything into the spreadsheets to see what actually happened, because I imagine there is some cognitive bias, and there's a lot of Priest matchups that we've probably just forgotten about where they steamrolled over Shaman. But it'd be interesting to see what the win rate was, because it does seem like this week Priest is underperforming, and I do think underperforming is the right descriptor there, because I don't think anything has changed that suddenly makes Priest a weaker deck. I think it's just running into some good hands, maybe suffering from play in a couple of positions, maybe just getting unlucky against good draws from the opponent, as that was certainly the case there with Kolento ripping that Wasp. Priest Mirror.
Yay!
Game number 2. Kolento going second. Tolvir, I believe, stands alone, or it might be first or second position in Mulligan win rates, if you look at it statistically when going second. Alongside Norshire Cleric, of course.
Yeah, Coin Tolvir is just a very different beast. Like, you just get so much stuff because of this card.
Keeping Silence going first is a debate as well on SilverName's side, especially since SilverName plays 2 copies of Silence. Going first, what is often very important is just playing your 1-drop. Like, essentially, just look at it in simple terms. When you are player 1, you are the proactive guy. You do things first, and then your opponent has to answer you. Whereas keeping Silence is a very reactive card, which is more the second player position, the player on coin. That's kind of the role that they fit into a lot of the time. Some players still do it, as evidenced here by SilverName, but some players are against keeping Silence on the play. You got to dig down deep into the mulligans in the Priest Mirrors, Admirable, because it's about all there is.
It's not even that that's all there is. It's like, honestly, that's the most important measure. Like,
yep.
If a game lasts 20 or 25 turns, how important was your mulligan?
Yes.
If a game lasts, 3 to 7, well, your mulligan's pretty gosh darn important. It's like a third of the cards you see.
Yeah, you brought this up before, and I loved it. It was Purple that you referenced has said that to you the first time. Like, I really do love that way of looking at mulligans.
Yeah, and I've always had that, like, inherently as an instinct, but to be able to verbalize it in
Yes.
such an elegant way.
Yes, that's why I like it. It's just such a great soundbite that makes the point so perfectly and doesn't actually lose any truth for being so succinct.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so perfect.
Thanks, Purple. Not only for your words, but for your color as well. It's lovely.
Do you enjoy a good purple?
Standoff begins.
Very nice Pyromancer from Kolento. Usually this is one of the only comeback cards in the matchup. Pyro and Topsy-Turvy combinations are like the go-to way to come back into a lost board. But because of the threat of just heal and inner fire here, that would make a 5-5 on SilverName's side of the board, which then crashes into a 2-3, leaving it with 3 health remaining. which means Kolento would then get to fire back into it, potentially just playing something he then draws off the top to keep tempo.
Tells me that if I'm in SilverName's spot, I want to play an Injured Blade Master and look towards these 2 Psychopomps.
Sounds right to me. Smart play from Kolento, though. I like it.
Choose quickly.
It's so funny sometimes that, like, he just played his 2-drop on 2, and I'm like, yeah, good play. Well, like, it kind of is.
I think there's reasons for doing other stuff in his spot. Now, that's where I want to give a good play to.
Okay. Go on.
Well, think about all the stuff you just talked about and now shut all of it down. Good play. Yeah, there's an elegant soundbite for you.
How about a nice 2-10 this turn, though?
It's all right, I guess. You know, it's a 2-10. That's a lot bigger than it was before. I'm thinking 2-7.
Really?
Yeah. I really either want to draw a card and find a 1-drop, or I just want to use the hero power and save the shield for the right moment.
I, for curve reasons, want to spend 2 mana this turn, because you have 2 4-drops in your hand, you play one of them on turn 4, and then turn 5, you're looking to play a 4-drop and a 1-drop, which is the Power Word Shield in your hand. So unless you want to trust draws from your deck, where there are a lot of 1-drops you can draw, that's a very reasonable way of looking at it.
Notice I said the Power Word Shield. I think well, the Power Word Shield would be the draw for the card.
Because it would
right?
draw further, right?
Yeah. The heal, though, I think it's... I might be doing that thing again where I slip back into the play style for my preference. Like, it's very Kolento to heal there.
It's the difference between 3 health for the cost of a Divine Spirit. Notice that I very carefully said I want to spend 2 this turn. I was not 100% convinced on whether that was Divine Spirit or heal.
That is a major punish.
But I did like it being a 2-cost action instead of a 1-cost action, just because of the way the curve works out from here.
I will say that with that turn, though, I feel like the silence in Kolento's hand perhaps was what influenced some of the soft and slower play.
Yeah, very fair.
If you see buffs from the other side, you can capitalize. It's always about options.
This turn's not easy either. Maybe it is. Like if you suicide your Armet here, you lose board overwhelmingly. But you also, in the outcome where you then play Psychopomp on the following turn, you have an Armet that can come out of your Psychopomp alongside Injured Tolvir and Wild Pyromancer. And in the Wild Pyromancer world, you actually have mana remaining to play spells with the Wild Pyromancer to then try and fight back against the board.
So you're less interested in that than the Armet Light Warden at some point?
No. It's why I started, like, that was a very stream of consciousness piece of commentary where I was just, like, talking through my thought process for the turn. I think I still land on the Psychopomp, but it's just, like, you saw Kolento as well. Like, he was going to snap the Psychopomp and then he stopped and thought for a second. I think those are some of the options that he was considering.
It's just, this spot's looking so good.
Armet, Light Warden, Silence trade.
I mean, you get to shut down the Reborn and the buffs with the Silence. Like, the Silence is running double duty here.
Yep.
In the light.
That
He said duty.
it just feels rare that this happens.
SilverName just keeps drawing the buffs, though. He refuses to be silenced.
Yeah, that might be a problem. I was trying to say like 3 different things there at the same time because that was just such a big draw.
If only you had a go-to catchphrase for situations where opponents drew an important card.
Well, again, it's beatable. There's 2 silences in Kolento's deck as well, and for now, it's not like an overwhelming position, right?
Okay.
Ow. you see what I mean? It's just lined up for the Light Warden.
Yep.
Divine Spirit now, I think, is looking a lot better on Kolento's side.
Yeah, he doesn't develop a great deal alongside it, though, which is kind of scary, and there's still a 7-3 that you'd have to take care of. Like, it's not like he ends the turn with a huge health minion there, right? Even if he goes Divine Spirit, because the 7-3 is contesting.
If you heal Power Word, Shield, Divine Spirit, you go to a 3-18. You crash 7 of it in, you end up with a 3-11 that grows to 5-11.
Yeah.
But, again, taking into account that SilverName has 2 silences in the deck, one of them expended, is that too much of a committal? Like, you will lose the position if you commit to that and it fails.
Yeah, I mean, that's the like that 5-11 is scary, sure, but you pass back over to SilverName, he already has a 2-5 on the board, and then he plays a couple of minions from his hand. Like, are you winning that race in that position? Or do you want to have multiple targets in play to try and fight for position?
I would say that I think you lose that outcome simply because you lose the board.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm interested. Okay, that's a huge draw.
SilverName's face, he is equally interested as to what that attack from Kolento meant.
Is someone injured?
But he immediately rips the huge punish. This Neverset Ritualist.
Life is enough.
Oh boy.
Yeah, oh boy, seems about right.
How much can you afford to not kill this Light Warden? Because I really want to draw cards.
Sorry, you want to play Circle of Healing this turn and then not kill the Light Warden? Is that what you're suggesting?
I really want to draw a lot of cards.
Okay.
It's just my favorite thing to do.
Okay.
He's not going to kill the Light Warden.
Okay.
It's just got 13 attack.
I love it. The disrespect.
Or the recognition. Like, yeah, big deal. You take 13 damage here. Like, you could be at 2 and you're fine as long as you can crush the board.
I mean, it's kind of a big deal.
I agree. It will be a big deal.
I wonder.
Like, how many extra cards did you draw doing it this way? 1 or 2?
Well, you could have drawn a lot more, but it would have left up a Wild Pyromancer, right?
Yes. You drew 1 extra card? Yeah, you drew 1 extra card off the... No. Yeah, you draw 1 extra card off the Pyro being injured. Yeah, that's fair. Like, that seems terrifying to me. That just seems like such an absurd risk when you would have that level of board control. 1 less card to kill a 11,
Well,
whatever it was.
There's something to be said about what it represents as well, though. You're like, if you're willing to let this Light Warden live, like,
I'll tell you what it represents, Admirable. Lethal. That's what it
well,
represents.
think about it from the perspective, though. Like, SilverName's kind of saying, like, hey, I just have a silence here. Make it big. I don't care. And Kolento's just in a spot where he's like, well, I don't really have another option, so call. Like, it's a bluff situation that Kolento's forced to call. So that's the reason I don't like it, but... man, I don't mind it.
Kolento, or SilverName, sorry.
I mean, he died.
Feeling very aggrieved that he doesn't have the silence to kill this 15-18 he left alive.
Or a taunt.
I must consider.
Do you get blinded by the card draw and just forget sometimes? That's not very good.
I think blinded by the card drawer is about right in SilverName's position.
He's just shy of killing it, too. Kolento 2-0. Just couldn't kill the Light Warden.
Couple of weird-looking games, honestly, from my perspective. Both of them end up going over to Kolento. Again, like I hate that I struggle with this so much, like reconciling board states that have already passed, but like I want to know exactly how many extra cards he drew for the cost of leaving that Light Warden alive, because he had such board dominance if he killed the Light Warden anyway, right? Like, how many of the minions that he drew did he end up adding to that board state that like improved his position? What did his board look like if he killed the Light Warden? Like, there's a lot of things that I want to go back and nail down before I like really definitively come out against that play. But like, it looked on instinct when you suggested it, it sounded ridiculous. And then in the situation that the board ended up in, it just seemed like there was an option being given to the Light Warden to win the game that just shouldn't have been there.
You could be very right. I think that drawing a heap of cards is a good thing, but I think he drew less than I would have, because I would have played the injured as well. I just would have accepted Light Warden damage and then tried to counter lethal. That was my idea anyway. By the way, Kolento's ready for an interview. Kolento, can you hear us?
I can. How's it going?
Very good. Congratulations on your win here in this set. Two kind of strange-looking games from our perspective. I'm curious about some of your thoughts in this match and some of the spots that you found particularly interesting.
I mean, you know, like sometimes you're just making these plays and they can just backfire, but if they don't have like a particular set of cards, it puts you in a lead, and it's tough to say if it's worth taking the risk or not. Say my previous match, if you're watching, I went for Poisonous Guy. It was good against some cases, but like against the hand my opponent had, it wasn't. Same about this situation. If I traded, I think I would have been in a better spot. I mean, Light went into the 7-3, right? And he had the hand to punish it. And the hand like that doesn't happen too often with 3 cards, really. But yeah, that was an interesting spot. Probably the most interesting moment of the match. Else, like, I mean, the first game was just, I don't know, just roll a Cobra. I don't have silence. What can please do about it?
Well, that's kind of where our first curiosity was looking at the Mogu Flesh Shaper in hand and seeing that you get Kobold Lackey. You chose to mutate the Evil Cable right there. I'm curious about your thoughts on that spot and if you have alternatives and why you eventually landed on what you did.
I think Priest doesn't want to go more than 3 minions, and it's very easy to fall behind that far where you can't even have any minions on board at all, right? So in this case, Mogu Flesh Shaper, well, 4 mana max. I mean, if you don't play your own minions, right? You can play 1 mana cost minions and then play it on 4 mana. You can play 2 mana cost minion and 1 mana cost minions on 5. But it's still like unlikely to be very cheap. You're unlikely to get a good Mogu if you don't have a board yourself, right? So I think Mutate was reasonable. It was too slow to wait until it finally goes on board. And like kind of oftentimes they also have a minion you can't actually trade into. Say if they buff a Tolvir, you can trade through it into something else and then mutate. And this is where Mogu really shines, right? You can trade and then mutate.
All right, so I want to ask you, instead of arguing about that point for 30 minutes, which is what I'd like to do, I'm going to ask you how you feel about your season as a whole, because obviously you ran Hunter Ace very, very close at the top of the division. Obviously, you have come into this with a very Kolento attitude to things, but are you proud of what you've achieved this season?
I could have done better, but I think with the amount of effort I put, I did a very good job. Let's put it this way.
Yep, that's about the answer I wanted and the answer I expected. So yeah, we can move on from there.
So what are you looking forward to now in this one? Do you have goals for the Masters Tour in Bucharest that's coming up, or do you have your sights set on BlizzCon? What's the future for Kolento during this offseason that we have coming?
We have a lot of changes coming to Hearthstone, so this time you can't just AFK and sit around. You have to play a game a little bit to know what's good. Again, yeah, I don't think I can rely on somebody else's opinion so early in the season. Also, we have tour stuff very soon, so I expect to play a lot in preparation for the playoffs and tour stuff as well. What do I expect from the season? I mean, will be nice if I qualify. Try not to screw it up this time.
Well, all right. Sounds very simple and straightforward for you. It's a very typical way that I would expect it from you. Just get to the play-in, get to the winning, and see what comes out of it. Kolento, congratulations on your win. It's a 9-5 season for you. Looked pretty good, so looking forward to seeing you in playoffs next week.
Thank you guys. See you later.